Hello, it is me again on the second channel. Today we're going to be opening up Jason Klaczrai's Darkrai deck. Pretty beat up packaging here. But I decided to purchase this on eBay for $65. I actually have this deck already built with real cards. You will see, well, not real cards, a lot of Worlds cards. You'll see it on the screen right now. I have real Darkrais for it, but I build my 2013 decks, which is what format this is from, with a lot of Worlds cards. So I had it built. Now I'm just going to have the World Championship one in my collection. 2013 is an interesting format. I get to talk a little history today while we are opening this. Figure I'll give it the unique perspective that I can offer. And neat little product here. Take a look at the back. If you know anything about Jason Klaczrai, this is his third World Championship win. He won in 2006, 2008, and then he came back in 2013 and won again. And something unique that the World Championships used to do was called the grinders, where, or last chance qualifier, depending on what you want to call it, the players would be able to grind into the World Championships if they didn't get their invite the day before Worlds. And Jason was one of those people for 2013, did not have his invite, but if you go pretty much undefeated out of the 100 so players in the grinders, you can lose like maybe one game, if at all, then you get to get your invite to the World Championships. Jason did that, and in fact he took that grinder win all the way undefeated, I believe, until the finals when he defeated Simon Nerode and his Team Plasma deck. On my main channel I actually opened up Simon Nerode's Plasma, or no, not Simon Nerode's Plasma deck, I think it was the senior Plasma deck, as well as the Ray Eels deck. Nerode did not get his deck printed, unfortunately, this year. And this is actually the last of the World Championship decks I need. Let me actually show them off. Let's grab that. Let's grab Ray Eels and Plasma. Every single year there are 4 World Championship decks printed, and I have the other 3 from 2013, being the Ray Eels deck. We have the Gothgore deck, American Gothic. This is Ian Witten's list. Ray Eels is Clement Lamberton's. And then we have the TDK deck, which I believe this was a juniors list. I do not know the player's name off the top of my head. I cannot read the kanji well enough to read that out to you. So, technically, like I said, I did have this deck built already, but what I decided is that I can take apart my Darkrai deck for 2013 once I have this, and then I can put those cards into 2012, so I can build another deck. So just wanted to finish out the set of these World Championship decks. For anyone who knows, I'm basically trying to hunt every single World Championship deck down. I now have every single deck in 2010 and then 2012 onwards, as well as tons of ones before there. Like all of them for 2004, or all of them for 2005, all of them for 2007. Some of them I'll never get, but I try to get them when I can. Finding a sealed one for $65 is a pretty great deal. And this is a pretty fun deck. Unfortunately, a little damaged on the front here because the card was in a bad spot, but that's fine, I don't care. Let's do a little comparison here between this Darkrai and the real thing. So let me just get my binder. And we can do that. Let's see how well Mr. Klaczrai's John Hancock holds up over time. On the left we have a real signed Darkrai by Jason Klaczrai, and on the right we have the World Championship deck. You know, actually pretty close. Pretty close. Some of his earlier signatures, such as in his 2006 Mewtrick deck, actually look pretty different. I do have that over here as well. His 2006 and 2008 decks both have like wildly, I'd say, different signatures, but this one still holds up. So let's just get these out. If we want to take a look at his 2006 signature, again, this is the only kind of fun I can bring to the video, is showing things like this. This is his 2006 signature on the left from when he won Worlds the first time. And then going to 2008, we have the Gardevoir deck, where It's a little bit more formulated, but still quite different. That's a little bit of a fun facts with Whimsicast right there. The 2013 meta itself is a pretty hostile format. Going into Worlds, there's like 3 really big decks that everyone's keeping in mind, and then 1 rogue deck. The 3 big decks that everyone's keeping in mind are Team Plasma, which completely dominated the national scene. Everyone in every country was getting terrorized by Plasma. You had Darkrai, which was also a great pick, won a lot of different national championships. Really consistent deck. Darkrai is like, if you think you can outplay your opponent, you want to play Darkrai. Of the big 3. And then there's Blastoise. Blastoise is pretty solid. Very risky in its opening turns because it can get donked, but it is a deck that is very powerful once it gets set up with its Candy Blastoise combo. One of the things in this format is that because these decks are like the 3 best decks, there's a lot of decks that just counter them. Not always successfully, because this format is inconsistent. These 3 are the best for a reason, of course, but pretty much every single deck in this format is going to be playing techs to beat these decks. The biggest example, if we just want to take a look at another one of my 2013 decks, I have Dylan Bryan's Flareon deck. This deck plays a lot of counters for these decks. We have Leafeon to counter Blastoise. You have Drifblim plus Enhanced Hammer, which is special energy hate, so you discard your opponent's special energy with the Enhanced Hammer, and then Drifblim does more damage for each discarded special energy. And then you have a lot of fighting types in this format as well seeing play. Things like Terrakion, things like Landorus EX seeing play to counter Darkrai. So if you're playing one of these big 3 decks, you're going to see a lot of decks trying to beat you, whether it be using those or using Garbodor. Kind of a narrow format, but it is an interesting time. Again, donks are pretty relevant. I mentioned that with Blastoise in this format, that donks are very prevalent because you can attack on the first turn, you can play supporters and items, and one of the biggest ones we'll see in this deck is Hypnotoxic Laser. It's a card that poisons your opponent, and then you flip a coin. If heads, they also go to sleep. You can also play a stadium called Burbank City Gym. Poison goes up to 30 damage in between turns. So a lot of decks, especially Team Plasma, would leverage this early poison damage to take turn 1 knockouts. Darkrai, a little bit different. Your chances of getting 3 energy on your Darkrai are not impossible on turn 1, but much less likely. So instead, Darkrai is a little bit more of a balanced deck, I'd say. You have kind of Team Plasma as your hyper aggro, and Darkrai is kind of your balance. You can take different kinds of paces. This meta was kind of thrown into array when at US National Championships, we saw the deck won by the tournament won by a rogue deck, that being Gothgore. And that's another huge piece of this format. The Gothgore deck is insane rogue deck. Essentially the goal is, Iselgore is going to paralyze your opponent every single turn with this deck and cover attack, and then Gothitelle is going to item lock the opponent so that they cannot use any switch cards, they cannot get Gothitelle out of the active, because as long as Gothitelle's active, it's going to item lock them. This crazy deck ended up winning US Nationals, but because it won at US Nationals, it actually didn't perform too well at Worlds. It did get some decent Seniors placements, which is where Ian Witten's Gothgore, I believe, got 3rd in Seniors. And we got some decent placements in, like, I think top 32, but ultimately a lot of players were ready for the deck going into Nationals, and we'll see that with Jason's list. So is this ordered at all? It is not too ordered. Oh, there we go. We'll start with the Darkrai because they're at the top. So we'll just do a little deck profile talk about these. 4 copies of Darkrai. This is before the release of Yveltal EX, so every single Darkrai deck is going to play 4 Darkrai. Just because if you're attacking with Darkrai as your main attacker, you want to at least have 3 of them for your 6 prize cards. Each of them gives up 2 prize cards, being a basic EX Pokemon. Night Spear is the attack, 90 to the active and 30 to the one of your opponent's bench. It 2-hit KOs everything in the format. However, with the help of some damage boosting cards, you can 1-hit KO Pokemon, like the Kyurem, which has 130 HP that's seen in the Plasma deck. Things like Flareon with 100 HP go down because of damage boosting effects. Talked about Gothgore a minute ago. The reason it didn't do that well at Worlds compared to Nationals is because of this Keldeo right here. Keldeo EX. We're going to move these over here, that way I can spread the whole deck out like this. Keldeo EX is good because of its Russian, which is a ability that lets it switch to the active spot. And with combination with Darkrai, which has Dark Cloak, an ability that gives all your Pokemon with Dark attached free retreat, you essentially have a free pivot card. Keldeo with a Darkness energy can switch into the active, and then switch to another Pokemon. The reason you run 2 Keldeo in this deck is because the Gothgore players could bring up 1 Keldeo and paralyze it, and then you'd get that Keldeo stuck. So you run 2 Keldeo, that way your Keldeos can never get stuck. This deck also runs the Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime is Bench Barrier. This is great in the mirror match, because opposing Darkrai decks are going to be trying to use their Night Spear to damage your bench. And it's also good against Team Plasma. Kyurem is their main attacker, and it does 30 damage to active and 30 damage to the bench. And that is the best attack in the deck just for using in the early game. So it's going to be very relevant to have Mr. Mime around. We also have the second half of the deck in there. So let's get that out. Let's just take a moment to look at this deck box, by the way. I always save these. They're very cool. You should never use them because they fall apart immediately, but very cool. And I'll be giving away that code card somewhere. Here we have the other Pokemon in the deck, and this is the other key point, which Jason decided to focus in on, is the Sableye. This is why the deck becomes kind of a balanced deck, is Sableye has the attack Junk Hunt. For 1 Darkness energy, put 2 items from your discard pile into your hand. And this allows the deck to reuse its item cards. Most commonly, against, let's just say, the Plasma deck in the finals, we saw Jason Klaczrai reuse his Enhanced Hammer, which is the item card that removes your opponent's special energy. Here's the Enhanced Hammer right here. So you can reuse that, or you can reuse Hypnotoxic Laser to put more pressure on the opponent. There's also a couple other item cards we'll talk about as we go, but I'm just going to start with the supporter cards. We'll get back to the items. This is very much a case of a black and white deck because we only have 8 supporters here. 4 copies of Professor Juniper. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Very good consistency. Of course, Professor's Research has that nowadays. 4 copies of N. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards, so kind of like Iono or Rocket's Admin if you're more used to those. And these were 4-ofs in basically every single deck in this era. The only other supporter cards that really see a lot of play are Skyla, which is search your deck for any trainer card, and the Colress, which shuffles your hand in your deck and then draws 1 for each of your benched Pokemon. As you can see with Jason's deck, though, it doesn't really benefit a lot from Colress. Colress would require you to play a few more Pokemon, maybe some tech attackers, when a lot of times this deck's going to have 4 Pokemon on its board maximum, and kind of just be waiting to respond to the situation. Like, it's easy to slap the Pokemon down, but you really don't need to do that in a lot of cases. So we just run the 4-ofs of the best supporter cards. N is really important here because you can use N in combination with Sableye to make some really disruptive comeback plays. And Juniper is really good for discarding our cards, especially our energy. Let's take a look at why we want to discard our energy. First reason is Dark Patch. Dark Patch attaches a basic Dark energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Dark Pokemon. So when I said it was possible to get a turn 1 Night Spear off with your Darkrai, this is why that is possible, is because you have Dark Patch. If you have a Darkrai on the bench, you can Dark Patch to it, attach to your active Sableye or Keldeo to give it free retreat, and then you can switch the energy over, which we'll talk about in a minute. One of the most commonly recycled cards when you're playing this deck with Sableye's Junk Hunt, getting 2 items back, is going to be the Dark Patch. You want to recycle your energy throughout the game if you at any point don't have a Darkrai ready to attack. We of course do have a lot of energy that we'll talk about when we get there. The other most relevant item card in this format in general is Pokemon Catcher. You target down one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and bring it into the active spot. This is one of the most important item cards in the entire era, arguably the most important. And it's also why counter decks like Gothgore are so good. Nowadays we have Boss's Orders, which has the same effect on a supporter card. This is an item card, which is infinitely more powerful. However, it also means that you can play a card like Gothitelle that locks the opponent from using their item cards and prevent them from using any gust effects at all. That's why the Gothgore deck kind of works. Every single other deck that's not Gothgore in this format is going to be playing lots of Pokemon Catcher, though, abusing that gust effect to trap the opponent or just target down benched Pokemon. It's very easy on turn 1 to take a knockout on a benched Pokemon in this format. That's just kind of the craziness that this format embodies. Let's see, we have... Yeah, there's our other fourth. Next up, we have our other most important item card, Hypnotoxic Laser. I mentioned this before. This is the poison item where you poison your opponent and then flip a coin. If heads, they also become asleep. Very, very good in this deck. You want to be putting your opponent to sleep to steal turns sometimes, but also that poison damage helps boost your damage. So Darkrai's Night Spear is suddenly doing 120 damage. If you have them poisoned and you have that stadium card, Burbank City Gym in play. We're going to put this down a little early just because it pairs with the laser. Burbank City Gym just increases poison damage by 2, so with these two combined you have a plus 30 damage buff. A lot of decks are going to be using this combo, so you don't even have to run that many copies of Burbank City Gym in your deck because your opponent might be playing it themselves. There's basically only 2 stadium cards seeing play in decks in this format, being Burbank City Gym or Tropical Beach. So this deck's great abuser of Hypnotoxic Laser, partially because it's just a great card, but also Sableye can use it over and over again. It's a great card to get back in the mid-game to try to steal back some turns if you fall behind. Next up we have Random Receiver. This is a great card considering we have a low supporter count in this deck. It reveals cards from the top of your deck until you find a supporter, so it just guarantees you either an N or a Juniper. Which is very, very good. This card would never be able to be printed nowadays, I don't think, because nowadays there's just so much more powerful and versatile supporters. Things like Professor Sada's Vitality that you could just run 4 of in a deck, run no other supporter cards would be fine. During Black and White, you didn't really have the same like onboard draw with things like Squawkabilly EX and Mew EX and Pheasantipity that decks have nowadays. So it's a little bit more of an opportunity cost to run a card like this in this format instead of just running more supporter cards for that better opening potential. But what Random Receiver does really well in this deck actually is that you can guarantee a supporter with the Random Receiver, and then if you don't find yourself another supporter on the other side of, let's just say, you end yourself and you draw 6 cards, you can use Sableye to get Random Receiver so you can get a supporter next turn. Next up we have Energy Switch. Energy Switch is pretty important in this deck. You get to move basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon, and this is incredibly important in this deck because of Dark Patch attaching to the bench. So a lot of times your board, when you're playing this deck, if you're not going to make the first move and you're going to wait for your opponent to do it, which this deck has the capability of doing, you're going to be storing your energy, let's just say 2 energy on this Darkrai, 1 energy on this Darkrai. And what that does, it gives you the ability to attack with either one. At any point, you can bring in a Darkrai, start attacking with it. A single Dark Patch will get you an attacker. And it's also good because you can attach an energy to, let's just say, Keldeo EX to use its free retreat, and then move that off to one of your attackers. Great card. In this deck especially. We have 3 Ultra Ball. 3 Ultra Ball is really good because Ultra Ball discards 2 cards from your hand and finds a Pokemon. With this deck in specific, you can discard Dark Energy, which is really good, and also there's just a lot of item cards you can discard and get back later. One thing I like to do is maybe I don't have an Enhanced Hammer to use right now. If I'm playing on the first turn of the game, my opponent doesn't have any special energy, I might discard that Enhanced Hammer and then use a draw supporter like N or Juniper, but then at the end of the turn I'm going to Junk Hunt to get that Enhanced Hammer back. So being able to like throw things in the discard pile is almost like a -1 turn inventory. So you have it at any point, but you have to spend your turn to Junk Hunt to get it. But doing so gives you a lot of access to the different cards in your deck. There's a lot of different plays you can do that make that even better. We're going to move the Burbanks over. We have some more item cards here. Speaking of Enhanced Hammer, there it is. Discard special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you've watched the World Championship Finals from this year, is pretty much entirely ruled by the power of Enhanced Hammer being a very, very powerful card in that matchup against Plasma. Plasma typically runs either all special energy or about 80% of their energy are special energy. Well, they can recover their special energy with their attacker. It does take their attack for turn to do like 30 damage, rather than attacking with the Kyurem, which is their main attacker. That's what they want to be doing. So if you're Enhanced Hammering them, they're not doing what they want to be doing either way, which makes it frustrating for them. In that finals, Jason Lozinski was able to leverage things like the poison damage and Enhanced Hammer, just looping these cards over and over to set up double KOs on Simon Nerode's board with his Darkrai, which is really, really strong. We also have 2 Bicycle. This is one of my least favorite cards of all time, but here it is. Bicycle draws until you have 4 cards in your hand. Very, very good card. In this format, like I said, there's not a lot of great supporter cards. So a lot of decks will run Bicycle in this format, and especially 2014, even though there are better supporter cards in 2014. A card like this is just a nice little utility piece to give you a little bit of draw if you have cards in your deck that you're able to play. This deck has a lot of item cards, so Bicycle is going to be live for a draw of 1 or 2 and a lot of points in the game. Can also be grabbed back with Sableye if you need to draw some more cards. Typically, that's not the best play, though. Next up, we have a tool card. We're going to put this over here. 2 copies of Darkrai. Darkrai is a tool card that only works for Dark-type Pokemon, but it makes your damage plus 20. So, Darkrai in this case is going to be able to Night Spear for previously 90 damage, now does 110. 110 is pretty solid, because what you can do is, let's just get this Kyurem out for a little bit of example. You can take this Kyurem right here, he has 130, and you can smack him for 110, and then you attack a benched Kyurem for 30 damage. And what that does for the Team Plasma player is next turn you're threatening to Pokemon Catcher and hit their other Kyurem for 110 and hit the guy you previously hit for 110 for 30 to knock out both Kyurems at once. That's a really strong play in this format. You'll do it a lot if you're playing Plasma. Or if you're playing Darkrai against Plasma. Darkrai is one of the decks that definitely best handles Plasma because it has energy denial, because it has different just kind of ways to mess with your opponent with the double KOs. And one thing you can do is kind of just sit on its board for a while. Like if the Plasma player is like not setting up that well, you don't have to put yourself in danger by throwing a Darkrai active. You kind of just build your board a little. Not many decks have that ability to do that in this format, because this format is very aggressive, very sacky sometimes. So this deck's very good for that. Dark Claw really helps boost that damage output. You only run 2, despite the fact it's a really broken card, because Sableye can just get it back. So if you need to use a third one, go get it back. 1 Tool Scrapper. Tool Scrapper removes tool cards from play. The biggest worry that this deck has with tools in this format would be the Garbotoxin Garbodor, which is a Pokemon that if it has a tool card attached to it, it turns off all abilities in play. That is very strong. It's going to turn off your Russian Keldeo, going to turn off your Darkrai EX. Very, very powerful. Forgot to mention another thing Keldeo does, now that I think about it. Getting sidetracked. Keldeo's switching effect removes poison from Hypnotoxic Laser. Very relevant interaction. That's enough out of Keldeo. Tool Scrapper is really good though. Remove the Garbodor tools so they can't Garbotoxin you. The other most relevant tool I'd say in this format would be Floatstone. Floatstone is probably the best tool, which is usually attached to Garbodor. You can remove your opponent's free retreaters. You can also use it to get rid of Dark Claws in the mirror. There's not that many tool cards in this format that see play. You get the occasional silly tool, but there's a lot of decks playing Tool Scrapper, despite the fact there's not a lot of tools. You just gotta respect Garbodor. 1 copy of Energy Search. Search your deck for an energy card, put it into your hand. Seems really bad, but Sableye can reuse it, so this is essentially an extra energy card that you can reuse at any point. Just gives you more flexibility. 1 copy of Computer Search. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for any 1 card. This is our ace spec, which means you can only play 1 in your deck. Computer Search in this format is by far the most played ace spec. Second would be like Dowsing Machine, but in this format, there's really no competition because things are so fast and aggressive that being able to find any card from the deck is very, very strong. So there's really not much competition for that ace spec slot in 2013. In 2014, things get a little bit more interesting. The format's a little bit more balanced. You see, Dowsing Machine become a pretty staple card. You see a lot of decks abusing G-Booster with the Genesect. Even decks that don't even main Genesect will run G-Booster. There's a lot of different options in 2014, but in this format, every deck that doesn't have a good reason not to should be playing Computer Search. It is a great card, and it finds you any 1 card. You can also reuse this with Sableye. Now I will say that reusing Computer Search with Sableye is very costly. You will have to discard another 2 cards when you re-pick up your Computer Search, but if it means finding any 1 card from your deck, you're reusing your Computer Search. One notable thing that Jason did not play in his list at all is Max Potion. This is a very commonly played tech in the format, especially in Darkrai decks. So let me go find a Max Potion to show. It's probably the biggest omission from his deck. He had two really big omissions, I suppose, that I'll cover real quick that he didn't play. One of those is Max Potion. Max Potion heals all damage from one of your Pokemon, but then you discard all energy attached to it. And Max Potion is incredibly strong just for being able to heal a Darkrai, because usually a Darkrai will get off 2 attacks, but if you can get off 1 attack and you already have another Darkrai rearing to go, then Max Potion is incredible tech. It can also be reused, so if you fall behind in the early game, before you even have energy attached, you can use Max Potion, discard all your energy, or discard none of your energy and just heal your board up. It's a very flexible card. Personally, if I was playing this list, I would probably be playing that over, let's just say, Energy Switch, or Energy Search, sorry, which is a little bit less multi-purpose. The other thing that this list does not play is Absol. Going into Nationals 2014, Absol was a brand new card to the format. Let me just find it in my 2014 deck. If I can find it real quick. There we go. Absol is a brand new card that came out for the 2013 World Championships and the US National Championships. It is a Team Plasma Pokemon. You're not taking advantage of the fact that it is Team Plasma, but it is. And what it does is it uses this Mind Jack attack, 20 plus 20 for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This was a very commonly seen tech in Darkrai decks going into Nationals because it's just a 2 energy attack. Darkrai takes 3 energy, it's much harder to get a Darkrai established. 2 energy means you can attach for turn and you can play 1 Dark Patch. So Absol is a very commonly seen tech going into Nationals. Most people probably playing it in their decks. I'd say probably about 50-50, I guess. Very strong card, not seen in Jason's list. The biggest weakness of Absol is its low HP cost, and also it's a single prizer. Typically, you're probably just going to try to force your opponent to knock out 2 or 3 Darkrai's and then like a Sableye. So there is a bit of downside there. But Absol's a pretty good card. I don't know if I would guarantee play it in my Darkrai deck if I were to build my own list, but it is a very, very good card. Just low to the ground. We also have the Dark Energy, which I didn't lay out, but they're less important. You'll notice this list plays a lot of Dark Energy, being 10, because you can get those energy back with Dark Patch. So Dark Energy is good to have in your hand, so you can discard it with the effects of cards and then get it back later. It's good to have plenty of them, that way you can also always have a turn attachment. You always want to be getting energy on your board. Like you can potentially pop off, play 4 Dark Patch in 1 turn, but really it's better to build your board because hands are so unstable in this format when you have N around constantly taking away your hand, putting it back into the deck. You don't want to have to build up combo hands. You want to have your board built up, that way you can respond to whatever hand that you get. Do have a nice pin here as well for Vancouver. You probably can't see it because it's not going to focus on it, but very cool pin. I do have multiple of these already because I opened up the other Worlds decks for this year, but it is pretty cool nonetheless to get to open up this deck. I'm going to be sleeving this up after this video. Thank you for watching my little thing, though. I wanted to upload this because I uploaded the other decks on my other channel. So for me, this is a way to give a little history lesson while I'm opening up the deck. I can be a little unfiltered since it's on the second channel. I'm going to have to remember my password for this. I forget it every time I log into the second channel because I don't actually use it that much. And I hope you got more out of this than a typical video because, you know, I get to bring a little bit of history to it, get to bring a little relevance of what the cards actually do because I play 2013 a little bit, and you get to see a real Jason signed Darkrai, because why not? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching that. Check out the main channel as well, where I upload much more edited, much less rambly videos.